evening. And you'll also notice that there are going to be a ton of links throughout this presentation. The presentation has already been shared via your Canvas platform. Please feel free to go in and check out all of these links. Like if you want to learn more about College Park Academy here on the agenda, you can see that. Also our Phoenix Flight Plan, which I'll speak a little bit more about later, is also here too. Moving to the next slide, I want to spend a little bit of time about talking about where we are, where we've been, where we're going. So this is a continuum of what our teaching has looked like in Prince George's County Public Schools, and specifically with College Park Academy as we've grown throughout the years. We're in our 7th year of existence. Typically, we are a blended learning school. And in its simplest form, blended learning is just using cutting edge technology with great traditional teaching approaches. And so typically we're sitting in that blended silo there. But we've had to move throughout this continuum. As you all know now, we've moved to the right and we're in online. Then we're going to be moving back to hybrid. As you hear everything tonight, know that we'll eventually be back fully face-to-face at some point with all of our students in the fall. And that's really where we implore all of you to move into not only this hybrid environment with confidence, but also into a blended learning model with confidence when we are fully back in the fall. So just a little bit about our mission and also our blended learning vision. And I just really want to focus in on the blended learning vision because that's really the meat of what we're talking about tonight. When we talk about blended learning, we're creating these passionate learners. All of our students come with a device already to College Park Academy, which you'll all be able to do now too, but it was written into our charter before this whole pandemic that students would come to our school. And our goal is to get them university and college prepared. And we do that with that relationship with the University of Maryland. Our students start concurrent and dual enrollment in the summer of their 10th grade year. And they move into those classes over at the University of Maryland. We think blended learning prepares them for that work. So a lot of time, and I still have these conversations with colleagues when I go out to job fairs and things like that. We are a blended learning school at College Park Academy. We are not a virtual school. And what that means is all of our core classes still have face-to-face teachers. We have PGCEA teachers that work here in the building. Miss S at one point was one of our PGCEA teachers who was in the classroom. She has since moved out to be our instructional lead teacher here. But she taught social studies, and all of those core classes have a face-to-face teacher with them. But they incorporate all of the different things that you're going to hear tonight. And then we also have some classes, and as the students matriculate, they get more of them, exclusively virtual classes. By the time our kids get to high school, they're taking about 50-50 with a PGCEA teacher and then with a distance learning teacher. Very, very quickly through our middle school program, it looks very similar to all of your schools here too. The one thing that I will note is that our virtual teachers that our students meet with, when they're in the building, they have to be with an adult. And that adult that they're with is a success coach. And as you look at the bottom of this slide, you'll see that our success coaches are with our students in the middle school program, mostly through their languages and some other courses as well. When we move into our high school program, you can see really our signature is our signature program. So these are like mini majors. And we've developed these with the schools at the University of Maryland. And the electives that our kids take really fit into these schools at the University of Maryland. So you can see business, computer science, engineering, public health, education, and then behavioral and social sciences as well. That close relationship with the University of Maryland is so, so important as we build this out and we build this school. So the virtual classes at College Park Academy and what they look like, you can see some pictures here. We have what's called an independent learning center on both our middle school and high school sides of the building. And on these two sides of the building, our students come into these rooms to take their virtual classes. We really want them to emulate or model a college library. In these places, that's where you'll see the success coaches. And the success coaches act as a liaison between the student, their parents, and also these virtual teachers who could really be anywhere in the country. And so our success coaches do a great job of being those liaisons. And that's something that can be incorporated really at any school, even if you don't have a quote unquote success coach. Teachers could act this way too. So online learning and what we've been doing, what our models of blended learning are. As you can see here, online learning really touches all of these different places that we can be in education. So distance learning, blended learning, virtual learning, e-learning, all of those have an online component. And when we talk about blended learning at College Park Academy, a lot of our teachers will use like a flipped classroom approach, right? Where the students are, they go home and they're doing the work before they come to class. So if you have unit 1, lesson 1, they'll do the reading and the work in there before they actually see their teacher. But online learning is a part of all of these different things that we're doing. When you look at this next slide, you can kind of see when we're in our normal brick and mortar environment, as we all know right now, we're in an online learning environment. But when we're in our brick and mortar environment, really in this blended learning model, it's super important that our teachers are very intentional about their planning and how they're going to plan. And I'll show you the Phoenix flight plan here in just a couple of minutes. But just some things that are built into our lesson plans, you should be seeing from your teachers, station rotations, lab rotations, the flipped classroom model, which I talked a little bit about, and then individual rotations are really important too. Both our teachers and success coaches work in that. And that's when you're really getting down to the individual needs of a particular student and what they might need. You should see these incorporated into the lesson plans that your teachers are developing. So specifically with the flex model. In a flex model, the success coach or a teacher acting as a success coach is incredibly important. They work with all stakeholders, as I said before, parents, other teachers in the building, the students, but they're also in charge of implementing interventions, breakout rooms, whether it be virtual or then in the classroom too, where they're station teaching. And then that independent conferencing piece is extremely important. So when we walk into a classroom, when I walk into a classroom, when Ms. S walks into a classroom, we don't expect to see them just with the computer open like we're sitting now and not moving around and doing different things. It's really important to note that in blended learning, you should see times where the computer's closed or there's rotations going around in your school as well. So blended learning classrooms, what does it look like for us throughout the years? And on the next slide here, I'll show you just some pictures of College Park Academy. What I hope you notice is it looks extremely traditional. And of course, these pictures were taken in the best of times. This is before the pandemic. However, you can see that our classrooms don't look all that different from the other traditional classrooms around Prince George's County Public Schools. You will see in some of the pictures that they do have their computers open. Miss Chung is in the top right corner. In this particular scene, she's acting as a success coach, and she's brought that small group over to her. So she might have 5 students in her group that are taking Spanish, 5 students that are taking French if they're taking a language with a virtual teacher. But she's pulling them over probably to do some progress monitoring at that point. In the bottom left, what I really wanted to show you too is that it's not the computer all the time. We do have paper and pencil out when the students are here, and that station rotation and getting their eyes off the screen is important too. Virtual classrooms, I just wanted to show you what ours have looked like. So I know the county has been typically using Google Meet and Zoom throughout this time. We have used something called live lessons. So if you don't know, College Park Academy is different from the 200 plus traditional schools in the fact that we use the Pearson curriculum, which is approved in the state of Maryland. It's something that we implement. As we move to the next slide, you'll see what it looks like in a typical classroom here, in a live lesson. Some things that I'll point out that the live lesson has that Google Meet or Zoom might not have, as Ms. S just clicks through a couple of these, is that we have different tools within a live lesson that are really, really great for our students. I'll point one out, a question and answer pod. What a question and answer pod does is allows the students to, they'll have a chat pod up and a Q&A pod up, and the Q&A pod allows them to just directly speak with the teacher without that fear of putting out something that they might get ridiculed for, something like that they typically would be scared maybe to raise their hand in the classroom. So that's great. On the second slide there that you're seeing of the live lesson classrooms, you're seeing a teacher that is basically going through an essay and annotating and showing the students exactly how to annotate an essay as well. So we really like this platform. Again, very similar to what you're using though in your schools. The next slide here, I can't reiterate this enough. Blended learning just doesn't happen overnight, right? Like the computers are really, really important, but you have to have great teachers that understand how to do these station rotations, flipped classroom, things like that. So we call it the CIA of blended learning, and it really incorporates a great curriculum, great instruction, and then at the end of those two things, also building amazing assessments that are aligned to state standards, but also that teachers are making sure that they develop to help their students understand and use it to back map when they're creating their lesson plans. So here's the Phoenix Flight Plan. We talked a little bit about it. This is what our teachers use to plan their lessons every single day. This is during the best of times and also now during virtual instruction. You can see that we've aligned it to the framework for teaching too, which is obviously something that we use in Prince George's County as an evaluation tool or an observation tool for students. And within the Phoenix Flight Plan, you'll notice all sorts of different elements that they can incorporate and figure out how they're going to use these elements of blended learning to get through to their students. One thing I do want to point out here that you'll notice, one thing that we've had our teachers doing, and we'll continue this throughout hybrid learning, social emotional learning check-in. During that warm-up, that's so important. We have them just talking as a group, sharing stories from the weekend, talking with each other, and just building those relationships, because that's been so hard during this time. So I just wanted to show you quickly on what a blended learning lesson plan looks like. So when we're in school, we consider ourselves a blended learning school. And there's key components that the teacher needs to include within their blended learning lesson. So Miss S is going to show you a couple of slides here, there'll be two, of what it looks like typically when a teacher has built their landing page and their agenda page. And what you'll see, there are some non-negotiables on here on both of these slides that you'll notice. Grading weights. Another really important note too to our platform. Parents also have logins, so they can see these pages too. So grading weights, syllabus, how to get in contact, office hours for the teacher, what the students and the teacher are doing for the day as well. Again, important to note that both the parents and teachers can see this. This is something that's easily incorporated into Google Classroom, and hopefully as we move into both hybrid and then blended in the fall, you continue to utilize this with your teachers as well.
I just want to add that we ask our teachers to have this up ready at by 8:30 in the morning for Monday, so it's ready for the week, so parents can go ahead and plan with their students. Also, members of leadership do check it to make sure that it looks well. And also, we really have found that the more they put on, the easier it is for communication. Everyone knows what's going on. It's very clear.
Now, in a virtual or a hybrid setting, which we're moving into, so we're in a virtual setting, we'll be moving into a hybrid learning setting where we will have some students with us and then some kids that are still learning from afar. It's really important that we beef up these pages just a little bit. They have to have those live lesson links, which we showed you some pictures of earlier, some screenshots of where the students can get in. It also has to be beefed up for the parents as well. A lot of times the parent is acting as the success coach, especially if they're in that virtual environment still. So it's really, really important as you look through these next couple of slides that Ms. S is going to show. And also to note, these are videos as well. We're not going to play the videos just due to a lack of time this evening, but you can go through and you can click and you'll see how Ms. S outlined what our face-to-face teachers do, as well as our virtual teachers who are not housed here at College Park Academy do for their landing pages or their class pages.
So if you're looking at it and following along, that first one is one from our social studies teacher, and the second one that I have my screen on is our Spanish teacher, which is a virtual teacher, just so you can tell the difference.
So our blended learning expectations. So one thing that we've noticed, and I'm sure in your schools that you've been concerned about moving into this next phase that we're about to move into, could potentially be all of the different sources of information that students can get when they get themselves on a computer, right? So we've had to put some things in place, some expectations in place for our students to be able to hold them accountable for their work. So when we're in a blended learning environment, which we are most of the time, except not really right now, we have notebook checks for our virtual classes. And what our success coaches do is they go in and they make sure that our students are taking notes throughout their lessons, that they're not just clicking through their lessons and going through too quickly. We also have checkpoint assignments, which happen on a bi-weekly basis. A success coach just goes in and they check and they see, has the student turned in all of their work for that 2-week period of time? And then we give a binary score at that time to that student if they have done it or if they haven't done it. And then obviously we also have a late work policy, and we build in grace periods at different grade levels as well, depending on their grade level, to get their work in. In virtual and hybrid, we've had to change it a bit. It's been tricky, and I think it's very important to note that you have to make adjustments to what you're doing to be able to meet your students where they are. Equitability issues too, as far as what tools students have at home. So you can see that we've taken some of these things away. We've also added longer grace periods to the students who are working virtually, and also made some adjustments on the points off that we did. So planning for hybrid learning. What's really, really important as we move into this next phase especially is making sure that you start with your virtual students in mind. How are you going to reach them? Because they're not going to physically be with you in the building. So how you start the lesson with your students, you should be thinking about how is that virtual student going to understand what I'm talking about? And then extending your lesson for those students who are actually in the classroom with the teacher, because you're going to have a bit more time potentially during independent practice, which we'll talk a little bit about, with those students. And how are teachers now going to plan for that extra time physically with students in the classroom?
And so what we did here is we just gave some ideas about what synchronous hybrid instruction would look like, just giving you some ideas. And again, all of these are linked, so feel free to click in. And then we also gave you ideas what to do for the asynchronous learning. So the biggest one that we think we want our teachers to focus on is doing the modeling assignment so everyone's clear. And then from there, we want you to go ahead and do the breakout rooms. We really want the teachers to partner students that are in person with the virtual, so that way it helps you monitor those breakout rooms within your classroom. And then when they're at the synchronous assignments, continue to do those discussions, maybe do a little bit more projects using Google Slides, resources like that, to really continue that collaboration. Our focus in hybrid is going to be collaboration and modeling and extending that experience to those in-person students.
I think what's really important to note too on this slide before we move on is even though we've categorized them at College Park Academy, and there's a lot of great tools here to help you planning for synchronous and asynchronous learning. You can certainly use these tools on either side of the continuum as well. Teaching the same lesson in different settings. I think that this is our biggest, I know at College Park Academy, this is our thing that we're focusing the most on right now. And we're actually here at College Park Academy physically going into the classrooms and practicing with our instructional lead teachers, our administrators observing to figure out what works best, because each class is going to look a little bit different. We have some classes, I know, and I'm sure you all can relate to this, where we might have 8 to 10 students that are going to be physically with the teacher. We have some of our rotations that our teachers are going into that are actually going to have no students physically in the classroom. They'll be teaching completely virtual. So it's really important to note for your teachers, whether in a hybrid setting or in a blended setting, that they're going to have to plan for that. How many students do I have physically in the classroom? How many do I have virtually? Always keeping the virtual students in mind first and foremost, because they'll have the most questions typically. I just wanted to show you really quickly a configuration of our classroom, and I want to be very clear here too. When you're looking at our configuration, this is something that's been approved by our administration here at College Park Academy. Always check with your administration first before the configuration of a classroom is moved or managed in any way. But I just wanted to show you how we are separating our desks. Obviously, you can tell by the desks that they're not separated 6 feet apart, but we actually have an A and B desk as well, and that does keep the students distanced. You can see a student sanitation station on the left, as well as a teaching sanitation station. But what I really want to point out here that we're blessed with at College Park Academy, in every single classroom, we have a smart TV in the front of the room where our teachers can, that's a touchscreen computer up there that our teachers can teach from. They can connect in with an HDMI cord to show their virtual teachers. So we're very lucky to have this. But just an idea of what a configuration might look like as we plan to reopen here at College Park Academy. So independent practice. This is going to be an area moving into both hybrid and blended that's going to be important. I know at least at College Park Academy, what we've been doing throughout virtual learning is our teachers have been sending their students to do independent practice, but typically they're staying in the live lesson room to help with any questions and things like that. Now they're going to be back to having kids physically with them in the building. And what our job is as an administration and a leadership team is to show them the value of that. They really are going to want to talk. They're really going to want to do interactive things. So what we've done for you is put some tools in here about rethinking independent practice and what we're going to be doing with our students. So things like virtual field trips, social emotional learning lessons, CNN 10, It shouldn't be a time where your teachers are closing their computers and just not engaging with those kids in front of them. We should start to now re-engage with them because they're going to need to talk and have those conversations. Another really important thing that has made College Park Academy successful, and I know the other 200 plus schools in Prince George's County, is our customer service expectations. We focus on this, and this needs to be a priority moving into hybrid and blended learning especially. So just some reminders there of what we do with our customer service as College Park Academy. And I know many of your schools are doing this now, but hopefully there's some ideas there too, just as reminders to your teachers as we move back into this hybrid learning and blended learning model, what that looks like. We are not going to play this, but this is just a parent testimonial about customer service at College Park Academy. So from a parent telling you exactly what works at CPA and how happy they've been with their experience. On the next slide, it's important to note, we're always adjusting. This is not a perfectly run machine here. We still have a lot of things that we need to work on, and on the right in the red, you'll see some of the challenges that we still have. We have about 5 bullets there that we've noted, and I'll say this: providing remediation moving into this first hybrid learning and then back into a blended learning environment is challenging, even in the best of times. So thinking about that, and as a leadership team talking about that and figuring out ways to get our students who are probably going to come to us in a very different place than when we left them last March, really just about a year ago today. That's something that we're working towards, and those are the things that we're balancing still at College Park Academy. On the next slide, some tools and templates that I have to thank Miss S. She's the one that really put a lot of these together. But I hope these help you as you plan to move into first hybrid and then hopefully continue with blended learning into next fall too, even if everybody's back at that time. I hope that these are some tools that you can share with your teachers and are a help to you and your staff. Obviously, incorporating them the way that works best for you and working with your administration to make sure that these are tools that'll be a positive for you.
I just really quickly want to highlight that first one is our hybrid learning schedule. What we did for distance and what we're working on right now for hybrid is we put everything on one large Google Doc for our entire community to access. So we kind of call it like a one-stop shop. It has like a who to contact if you need help. Our parents are on it daily whenever I'm updating it. So we just wanted to give you an idea of some things that we're doing. Ours isn't complete, so feel free to check it out. The notebook, check rubric, all of these things that we have found really, really successful. If you have any questions, I'll put my email in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me.
Actually, the next slide has our contact. And we're going to be surprising one of our classmates tonight. We put his contact on there too, but one of the classmates here in the RTE program, Mr. Irwin, we put his contact in there too. He is an expert as well. Could have done this probably better than me this evening. But he's incredible. And Miss S and Mr. Irwin are both in your program and can continue to answer questions. I put my email in there too. We are with you. We're all Prince George's County employees. We're all going to face this together. We hope that we have given you some tools tonight to help you, and also want to be human resources for you too. If you need anything, please feel free to reach out to us at College Park Academy.